Lagoon is a park in Farmington, Utah, just north of Salt Lake City, and is truly an oasis in a long, vast desert. The western US not having much between California and Missouri, but this park has been around since 1886, and they've been running coasters for the last 119 years, including one that's still there that's turning 104 this year. This independent park has built up quite a coaster collection, not removing one since 1989, and currently standing with 11. If you want me to rank them, I already did. Check that out if you want. But today, let's do something different. Let's break down their stats and find out which one's the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced, and rank them up based on prime ride time. These are the coasters of Lagoon, by the numbers. First, I want to thank my Patreons and my new member, John Kelly. If you want bonus access, bonus content, behind the scenes videos, a shout out when you join, and your name on this fancy Patreon screen, follow the link below and join. If you're new to the series, prime ride time starts when the train starts to pick up speed off the lift, and ends when it hits the final brakes. For launch coasters, the clock starts when the launch starts. Mid-course brake runs are left in, but if it slows the train down too much, it'll increase the ride time but hurt the pacing. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I took out the lift, station, and brakes from the overall length, so the number on your screen will not match the number on RCDB. Lagoon has 11 coasters, but one of them cannot be included on this list. That, of course, is their newest coaster from Art Engineering, Primordial. This is the problem when you have a dark ride coaster. It really serves as both. But when you're comparing apples to apples, a ride that stops a lot, or going 1 mile an hour while you're shooting at targets or watching screens, that doesn't compare to a coaster that's always moving or trying to thrill you. Therefore, Primordial's 144 seconds of prime ride time will not be ranked number 1. That includes 18 seconds of actual coaster elements, then 126 seconds of dark ride, capped off by one of many possible endings. It's a fun ride, just not right for this video. It stands 85.3 feet tall, that would be 4th. Hits 40.4 miles an hour, that would be 6th. And covers 1,649 feet of track. Once you take out the lift, station, and brakes, that would be 5th. Because of all that dark ride section, it only covers track at 11.5 feet per second. No surprise, by far the worst in the park. In 10th place with 9 seconds is Puff the Little Fire Dragon, a Zero Tivoli kids coaster. This is a very basic oval kids coaster, this same exact model having 18 installations. It's actually a clone of Hoot and Holler at Darien Lake if you're familiar with that one. This has only 3 sets of drive tires to get the train up 10.8 feet. That's last place by a ton. About 4 times shorter than the next shortest coaster. Twists down to the left into some hills, hits 16.2 miles an hour, also last, and covers about 163 feet of track. That's of course last, but you do get 2 laps. But as always, a by the numbers rule, only the first lap counts. Finally, it completes the sweep and finishes last place in pacing at 18.1 feet per second. Though, that's only half a foot away from 9th place, so that was a close call. In 9th place with 24 seconds is Bombora, an Art Engineering family coaster. This looks a lot like a custom Vekoma Jr. coaster, but it's from Art Engineering, a manufacturer that doesn't have much of a catalog, but actually has 3 coasters at this park, Bombora being their first ever. This has a surfing theme, onboard audio, and decent size. It stands 45 feet tall, that's 8th, but doesn't have a main drop. It uses that height to wind its way down slowly, eventually getting to 31 miles an hour, 7th place, covering 742 feet of track. As a family coaster, that makes sense, it's second to last. And although it's not very fast and rides high off the ground and its pacing isn't great, it ranks right in the middle in 5th place, 30.9 feet per second. That says more about the other coasters in the park than it does about Bombora. It's not a breakneck family coaster. Some of these other coasters just have pacing issues. In 8th place with 27 seconds is the Bat, a Vekoma family suspended coaster. Here you have a very typical Vekoma hang and bang. There actually aren't too many out there, they just seem like they're at every park I go to. Kings Island, Carowinds, Canada's Wonderland. I even ran into one at Dreamworld in Australia. The Bat is one of the worst offenders in head smashing. But that's not what we're worried about here. This goes up 48.6 feet, 7th place, and like Bombora, doesn't have a main drop. It uses that height to spiral its way to the ground, at the end hitting its top speed at 26 miles an hour, second to last. And it serves the same purpose as Bombora, just under the track. So of course, its length is almost the same, sporting just 50 more feet of track and ranking 8th. Bombora also edges it in pacing by less than 2 feet per second, the Bat finishing 7th at 29.3 feet per second. In 7th place with 29 seconds is Jetstar 2, a Schwarzkopf Jetstar 2. This coaster was named after its model, a portable Schwarzkopf that doesn't even have real footers. And this one started at a park in Washington State, but has been at Lagoon for almost 50 years. You board your sled, sit in someone's lap, or vice versa, and head up your spiral lift. It's always hard to calculate how much track is on a spiral lift, but I did my best. This reaches 44.3 feet, that's second to last. But unlike the family coasters, this dives all the way to the ground, almost scraping it at times. 1,331 feet of track ranks right in the middle, and it does not lose that speed, covering 45.9 feet per second, which is good for third. This is janky, full of tight elements, and relentless. In 6th place with 38 seconds is Colossus the Fire Dragon, a Schwarzkopf looper. Another portable Schwarzkopf. This was on the German fair circuit before moving here in 1983, finding a permanent home. This heads up 86.9 feet, 3rd place. Has a twisting drop all the way to the ground, also third at 49.1 miles an hour, going into those 2 loops, twisting around and back through the 2nd loop. That's where the train slows down, but then rifles back between the 2 loops and has a fast low to the ground helix finale, covering almost 1,800 feet of track. That's 4th place. And no surprise, this has strong pacing, finishing 2nd at Lagoon, 47.2 feet per second, just over 1 foot per second better than Jetstar 2. In 5th place with 42 seconds is Wicked, a zero tower coaster. The park's one and only launch coaster. This turns out of the station into a tunnel, and those LSMs kick in and launch you towards the ride's top hat. Then you engage more LSMs and launch upwards, topping out at 110 feet. That's second. One of only 2 coasters at the park that clears 100 feet, and I'm not sure if it hits that top speed of 55 miles an hour on the launch, or on the vertical drop after, but that max speed is also good for second, and again, one of only 2 coasters in the park that passes the 50 mile an hour mark. It has a first half high off the ground, then goes into a mid-course, slows down quite a bit, and then goes into a very low to the ground second half. A bunch of twists and turns, but really does get robbed of that speed off the mid-course. So, like I say, it will extend the ride time but hurt the pacing, and this falls to 4th place behind Jetstar 2, 43.3 feet per second, taking 42 seconds to finish off its 1,819 foot course. 3rd place at about 25 feet longer than Colossus. In 4th place with 48 seconds is Cannibal, an art engineering mega coaster. Here's the reason everyone goes to Lagoon. This massive coaster using an elevator lift, going up that menacing tower, 208 feet off the ground, going into that 116-degree drop at 203 feet. 1st place and almost 100 feet better than Wicked, hitting 72 miles an hour. That's 1st place and 17 miles an hour faster than Wicked. It has a 3 or 4 or 5 inversion course, depends who you ask. I think it's 5, but the fact that it's a controversy just shows this ride has some weird wacky elements. All that makes up almost 2,500 feet of track. 1st place, and the only coaster that goes over 2,000 feet of prime ride track. Okay, I won't keep you waiting any longer. It's 1st place in pacing also, but only beats Colossus by about 4 feet per second. Part of the problem is the mid-course brake run. It slows the train down to a crawl, and where this is a problem on Wicked, on Cannibal it actually works out great, going into that hang time filled lagoon roll, and if the train was going fast, it wouldn't be the same element. Cannibal is a masterpiece of a coaster. Even its negatives turn out to be positives, and it makes a clean sweep across all categories, except for ride time. In 3rd place with 53 seconds is Wild Mouse, a Maurer Wild Mouse. It seems like we always run into this, a wild mouse ending up near the top of a by the numbers list. These aren't tall or fast or long, but they go through the elements so slow, using sharp turns and sudden drops to keep the ride interesting. This goes up 49.3 feet, that's 6th place, doesn't have a main drop, goes into its switchbacks, then has a series of small drops, at some point hitting 28 miles an hour, 8th place, and by the time it hits the final brakes, it covers just under 1,000 feet of track, 7th place. A lot of Wild Mouse coasters are the worst pace in their parks, even worse than kiddie coasters. But Wild Mouse avoids this by half a foot per second. 18.7 still not very good and second to last. So, not a stat monster, but does provide a long ride. In 2nd place with 54 seconds is Spider, a Maurer spinner. This is the popular SC2000 model. 9 are out there, and if you've been on Laugh Track at Hershey Park, this is the same thing. So, if you were ever wondering what the ride looks like outside all that neon theming, take a look at Spider. This is right in the middle in height, going up 50.8 feet, and unlike the Gerstlauer spinners, this drop goes all the way to the ground, maxing out at 37.3 miles an hour, 6th place, also 6th in length, covering 1,151 feet of track, but its pacing isn't as good. You probably expected that, considering this is number 2 in ride time. It's just ahead of Wild Mouse in 8th place, 21.3 feet per second, and part of the problem is all those block zones. There are 4 spots in the track where it levels out and hits a brake run. I know they need this because they run so many cars, and some don't really slow the train down, but others do. That 3rd one seems to hit really hard, right before you dive into the helix. This ride is crazy enough with those trims, so I can't complain too much. If you aren't going to be a stat monster, do something else well. Wild Mouse has sharp elements, and Spider has crazy spinning. In 1st place with 67 seconds is Roller Coaster, a John A. Miller wooden coaster. Despite adding new coasters over the last 104 years, roller coaster still reigns supreme, at least when it comes to ride time. And if you want my opinion, it's the park's second best coaster. This is a full complete major wind coaster, but it only stands 62 feet tall. That's good for 4th, bottoming out and reaching 45 miles an hour, tied with Jetstar 2 in 4th place. And it's got a really nice double out and back layout full of airtime hills, going to the parking lot and back into the park, covering just under 2,000 feet of track in 2nd place. Part of being a double out and back coaster, especially one that's over 100 years old, you're gonna have some slow turnarounds. These are absolute pacing killers, and roller coaster only covers 29.8 feet per second, that's 6, wedged right between Bombora and Bat, not a place you want to be. But despite this, the ride does have solid airtime. You just have to wait out those long slow turns. At the end of each episode, I like to take the average rank across all categories to see who's the overall winner. No surprise, Cannibal dominates, an average rank of 1.6. Its 4th place finish in ride time, the only thing knocking it down. Wicked is a distant second, barely edging out Roller Coaster, and Roller Coaster barely edges out Colossus. Then there's a gap. You got Spider at 5.4, Jetstar 2 right behind. Then Wild Mouse off on its own, Bombora and Bat bunched up near the bottom, and then, of course, you got Puff. That has the lowest possible average rank of the 10, finishing last in every single category. That's a wrap on the Coasters of Lagoon. By the numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you, or confirmed something you already knew. I was very surprised that Bombora finished 5th in pacing, even ahead of Roller Coaster. You don't see a lot of family coasters that land in the middle of the park in pacing. Also, I did not expect Jetstar 2 to be the 2nd shortest coaster in the park. This crazy, out-of-control ride in a park with a lot of family coasters. It just doesn't seem right. This is shorter than every other coaster in the park except for Puff. Also, for as respected as this park is, having a lineup people seem to like. Only 2 coasters stand over 100 feet tall, and only 2 coasters pass the 50-mile-an-hour mark. That's crazy, but it just shows you size isn't everything. And rides like Spider, and Colossus, and Roller Coaster, and Jetstar do what they do very well, despite not having big-time stats on their side. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. Also, check out my 2nd channel, where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.